Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my plans for the upcoming Phrecia event. So if you guys do not know, Phrecia is starting whenever this video comes out in the next 12 hours or so, and it is a really fun event. It is actually, I would call it a league. It has a lot more content than some leagues even have. The endgame is completely changed. There's no Atlas passive tree. There's idols instead. And yeah, it is a sight to behold. I would definitely try it out. Today, I'm going to talk about what I have planned for my first few days and then what I'm going to spec into later. For the first 4 to 5 days, I will be playing a Kinetic Fusillade Totem, which I think is a extremely efficient build for its currency. If you don't know, idols are basically items you can buy that will give you... So it's like buying your Atlas passive tree, but it's way stronger. So that means that investing into your Atlas is very good. So if you have an efficient package that doesn't cost much and can farm decently, then you can put all your monies into idols, and that will make you stronger, and that's how you start snowballing. And that is the only way to efficiently get into a endgame build. For my day 4-5, now I will be starting with a Paladin, and I will explain everything in this video, and why and what I will do. In order to be able to later transition into a Aristocrat, the Attribute Stacker Ascendancy. Now, if you're just here for Kinetic Blast of Clustering and you don't understand why I'm not playing it again, there is a lot of things that have changed since I first played Phrecia and Kinetic Blast of Clustering back in the day. Whisper solved a lot of issues that are not issues anymore, and I don't want to play a slightly worse version of the Hierophant that I've already played. So TLDR, it's still good, but I'm not really interested in just playing that again in the different colors. But if you want the exact explanation, I go over it at the end of the video. But as my starter, like I said, I'm going Kinetic Fusillade Paladin, and I kind of just want to go over why that and why Ballistas. Also, shoutouts to two creators, Locahol, who has a Kinetic Fusillade non-Ballista build, but nonetheless, a lot of good info about how Kinetic Fusillade works, and especially back when Kinetic Fusillade calculations weren't in POB, it was a big help. And then also Captain Lance, who actually played Kinetic Fusillade Totems, although in a completely different setup. Both their videos down below in the description. But in order to understand why I want to go ballistas on this, we have to understand Kinetic Fusillade, and a lot of people have been playing it this patch. It is, I think, a little bit under the radar right now. It is one of the better wand skills currently out. Now I'll quickly show you how this skill just looks like. So basically, this is what it looks like. You are, if you have it set up correctly with reduced duration to your attack rate, which I'm going to explain in this video, you're going to have this Gatling gun, and this is how it looks like without ballistas, and with ballistas, well, you just have a ton of them shooting out. I can show you this as well. So if you put in the ballista, should be basically the same. You put it down and it just keeps firing. It is actually a very, very nice playstyle because every projectile, which can chain up to 3 times, also has an AoE attached. And it does also shotgun with Tornado if you place the Tornado correctly. In this case, we're going to place it correctly on top of the enemy with a Arcanist brand. All right, so if I have it set it up correctly, it will look like this. And if you do not have it set up correctly, it will look more like this. You have to like charge it up and then release it. Charge it up and then release it. So you will know very soon if you've done it correctly. So let's talk about that real quickly. Basically, your attack time has to be higher than the duration of the Kinetic Fusillade. And there is a little bit more to it because the amount of projectiles also determines how long it takes for the Kinetic Fusillade to release. However, thankfully, that is already in POB, so you don't need to really think about it. Here it tells you max effective APS. This is what it says. And on the bottom, it even tells you current attack rate. So that is your current attack rate. If that attack rate is under this number right here, you're good. Otherwise, not so good. That is the most important thing about this build. If you have too fast of an attack time, you're bricked. Duration depends on the skill effect duration and amount of projectiles. Now, the way you can influence your skill effect duration is first up on the tree with reduced skill effect duration, windows of opportunity cluster, and then also less skill effect duration, as well as that with the less duration support, which is a pretty easy shoe-in, and it also gives 19% more damage, so it's not that much of a payoff. And then there's 2 more factors. You can use Warped Timepiece, which gives up to 20% reduced skill effect duration, and you can use Time Clasp, which can also give up to 20% reduced skill effect duration. So that's kind of it. You have to check at POB whenever you throw your gear around. Whenever it feels off, then just check, and maybe you have to reduce some attack speed somewhere. in the POB have it kind of figured out. But yeah, otherwise you have to adjust. And now we can go to why I went for totems. And the answer is pretty simple. I don't want to use this garbage gear here. Like, I'm fine with maybe using one time clasp or one warp timepiece, but ballistas are actually perfect for the skill. Like, they are made for this skill, you could almost say. So ballista totems are, I mean, pretty straightforward. I don't have additional totems. This is just a thrown together character, but you can have like 6 totems down, so you can have 6 times the projectiles. But the payoff is usually that you lose a support and you have 50% less attack speed. Well, on this build, 50% less attack speed just means I don't have to use these rings. If you look right here, this is like my end of day 1, start of day 2 POB. You will notice that I have extremely normal rings. And I have a warp timepiece in there. You can also go for 1 ring instead of a warp timepiece. But the thing is, the ring rolls from +20 to -20. So even though it's very common, it's annoying to get a good roll. The warp timepiece is the same rarity and just rolls from -10 to -20. So it's a lot easier. I don't even have a perfect roll here. And it still works out, as you see in the calc. So while this skill is usually super annoying, all I have to do here is, I'm a duelist anyways. So I'm right here at the less duration cluster. And I use a warp timepiece. And warp timepiece is not even that bad because we're getting attack and cost speed, which both scale with Wilma's requital. And on top of that, we're also getting some movement speed. Debuffs on you expire 100% faster is also a very nice QL stat. Now, there's actually more upsides than that with not having to use the time clasps. It is that my skills actually have some duration left in them. So I can actually use stuff like Tornado and Arcanist brand. And for example, the Paladin's effect right here, the Elemental Valiance, and still have it up, right? Like half of the time or even more, which is more than enough. On a normal Kinetic Fusillade build, all of those skills are basically removed because you're going to be at like 90% reduced duration constantly. You're also a duelist, a wand duelist, which usually is an issue because you're on the other end of the tree and you can't get watchtowers and you can't get surveillance. And guess what? We can. Now, obviously, we cannot get a wand cluster, which is annoying. It would be nice for the additional proj. But guess what else totems get? They get 2 additional proj from Rain of Splinters. So there you go. In general, I think ballistas are very well positioned for this build in general. Now, okay, but why Paladin? So it's pretty straightforward. Paladin has one of the best nodes in the game, which is also on Guardian, if you don't know, which is Elemental Valiance. You get Elemental Relics when you or a nearby ally, which totems are, kill or hit a rare unique enemy, which is always going to be up because your totems hit all the time. Even though these are duration based and you do get the less duration and reduced duration, you have 6 times the amount of totems that always hit, always hit, always hit. It's a little bit less uptime as usual, but I've had no problems trying it out on a Guardian. Okay, you might say, if this is so good, why are people not playing it? Well, it's because it's Guardian. It's on the other side of the tree. Paladin is in the midst of things. It is perfect. And you also don't have to take trashy nodes, and you don't have to be a Guardian, once again. Now, what do these relics actually do? They give you Anger, Hatred, and Wrath of a level 27.5, 27, and 27.25. If you don't know what that means, that is a lot of flat. That is like tier 1 rolls on a weapon, on a wand. Because we're one-hander, and for one-handers, obviously, flat damage is a lot better than for two-handers, for example, like a bow build. So it is just a perfect addition. And just to make you understand how good this is on a wand, this is a very bad wand. This wand has, I think, a tier 3 and a tier 4 with a woe spell damage. This gives us round about triple damage, a little bit more than double. Now, it is always up on bosses, like 100% of the time. And while clear, there's usually round about 2 and 3, but Hatred is not as good. It's mostly about Wrath and Anger. So this is a big payoff of Paladin. The more your gear sucks, the more this is going to carry you, basically. We have Light of Divinity, which is just a 25% increased ally damage. It's an okay node, right? You're not mad. The small nodes here actually have Regen and Aura Effect, which is a quite good small node. As a third, we're taking Bring the Battle. Now, we would like to get Taunt anyways on totems, so all we really have to do is get a Murderous Eye Jewel with percentage taunt. Maybe you can get another damage roll or life on it. There you go. Dunzo, everything's always going to be taunted. Warcries do also taunt, and now I do have it on. Enemies taunted take 20% increased damage. I do have a single Warcry, but I don't want to make it feel like we're going to play around it or anything. We're going to have Enduring Cry, Urgent Orders, and this is only for endurance charges because the regen is tiny, and once again, we have less duration, so it's not up all the time anyways. I'm gonna press this once every 10 seconds. I'm gonna get my endurance charges, and I don't have to think about power whatsoever. So I think that is also a nice boon on the side. As my last note, I was actually going to go for a Spectre, but because of gem stuff, I'm just gonna go Anointed Champion. This one got buffed this patch, 50% increased effect of Consecrated Ground you create. If you don't know what Consecrated Ground does, it's actually a lot of regen. So Consecrated Ground gives you 5% life regen and 50% reduced effect of curses. Which is kind of crazy because we're going to have extra map modifiers this patch. So you're going to have curses everywhere. And with the 50% increased effect, that is going to go up to 75% increased effect of curses. And until you have your Mage Blood, that is a very valuable stat. And as you can see right here, without a Vitality or anything, we have round about 12-13% regen as a totem build, which is obviously nice because we don't have a Leech. So there you go. A very tight, very nice package. And the biggest thing is we can respec into Aristocrat later. In terms of gear, there's nothing too crazy here. Basically just end of day 1, start of day 2 gear. You will have a 6-link even after a campaign. If you just do the League mechanic, that is just going to be free. It just is what it is. A lot of this gear is very, very achievable. You should probably have a corruption on this Dode Race. I'm going to work a little bit on some more fleshed out POBs. I'm not trying to play this build forever, right? I'm going to play maybe 4-ish days, maybe 5, until I have saved up some monies. But this, I think, is going to be a very efficient package. Now, I don't think there's much to say. You're looking for 1- non-channeling. This is one thing I'm not 100% sure. Am I going to get away with inspiration, or do I have to use life tap? It is what it is. We're going to figure it out. Your stats are going to be important because you do have a wand. Now, you could say, pal, why don't you use a lower level wand? Kinetic wand needs 188 and the fizz doesn't matter. That is true. But from the Breach tree, you're mostly going to get kinetic wands. So let's be realistic. You're probably going to need 188 int, and that's going to be the wand that you buy or make yourself. So you're going to have to get a little bit extra here or there. It is what it is. For flasks, also nothing too crazy here. Definitely do get a quartz flask. As always, that is one of the most comfy things you can do with a totem build because your playstyle can become place, move through enemies, place, move through enemies. For grafts, I'm currently looking for a Molten Xoth graft, which I don't know how to put that into POB here. It would be kind of fake if I just put extra EHP here, but it does give you a ton of extra EHP. It will probably double your EHP. And later on, we can make it perma uptime with the Rune Graft that gives slower effect right here. But that is for later. However, do look out for this Xoth Graft. I don't think we're going to be bleeding damage and getting that on top of whatever. We do also have Steel Skin in here, right? Like it is a nice bump whenever you get absolutely slaughtered. And the second thing, I'm not 100% sure. People have told me that the second tornado is good on here, but I'm not 100% sure because we would probably have to get a 4th chain. But I will try it out. Otherwise, take any of the offensive lightning grafts. Now, for skills, you want Kinetic Fusillade with Greater Volley. Now, you can also add Volley on top or GMP on top and get even more projectiles because Kinetic Fusillade gets more damage the more projectiles you have in your sequence. However, do note that then you can't scale as much attack speed, so you have to kind of balance that out. Do also note that you might need Life Tap instead of Inspiration if the mana is getting annoying, because I don't think we're going to put a Clarity in there, and I don't want to press Mana Flasks. It is what it is. Now, crit damage right here, probably going to be a mainstay. Less duration. Get quality on this as soon as possible. You can farm this in Merc Lab. You can buy GCPs. But the quality on this one is going to be really, really, really important. Greater Volley, Ballista Totem, obviously. Now, Ballista Totem does give placement speed, so you probably want to get the quality also at some point. Kinetic Fusillade has decent quality as well. Otherwise, I'm pressing Enduring Cry sometimes just to get endurance charges. I go Purity of Elements. This is really nice because I want to be ailment immune. It gives me less gear pressure, and also my totems get the res, which is even better. Flesh and Stone, super nice aura, very nice defensively. Shield charge, faster attacks, momentum, life tap. You can cut the momentum if you need the link for anything else. I do go for an Arcanist brand setup with Tornado, LE weakness, and more duration to make up a little bit for the less duration that I have. And the Arcanist brand, I think, is going to be very good because people told me specifically that Tornado needs to be on top of the enemy. And from what the little testing I've done, that seems to be true. So Arcanist brand is going to hold that on top of the enemy. You might have to recast this a few times on harsher bosses because of the less duration, but it is what it is. Frenzy, Power Charge on crit, GMP. I would like to have cast on crit here. The only problem is that my Frenzy, if I don't have GMP on, will fire like a fork, because this game after 12 years still does that if you have exactly 2 projectiles. And so that's already my 3-link. I don't want to give up my power charges. So yeah, I mean, if you want to go for a custom crit setup, try it out yourself. Precision, Arrogance, pretty straightforward, just easier gearing. And then obviously the steel skin with cost when damage taken. Now let's talk about the passive tree. I think Duelist is actually in a really good spot because you can, with low opportunity cost, get 65 block with Versatile Combatant. And I mean very low opportunity cost. You don't need any fancy shields. You just need a prefix chance to block, and then you're gonna take this cluster right here, Deflection, you're gonna take Tetsudo, and then these 2 masteries, and you're capped at 65. Now you also do need body armor. You need the Implicit with 5% chance to block. That is a tier 1, so it's extremely easy to hit, and you're block capped, right? No Unnatural Instinct here needed for these nodes. You're just block capped. It is extremely nice, and it's gonna be probably needed with the extra map mods. Get some extra avoidance there. All the totem clusters are here. We obviously go for the bleed clusters. They're just super efficient, and we're hitting so much that everything's always bleeding. Other than that, I really do like Weathered Hunter. Once again, less suffix pressure because it gives you both accuracy and res. The mastery up here, make sure that you have window of opportunity with less skill effect duration. That is like the baseline. And on top of that, you're also going to need a warp timepiece or the ring that gives reduced skill effect duration, right? Otherwise, we're just taking as much life as we can. Do take the additional projectile. There is a chance that later on you actually want to cut this because this might be too much attack speed and you just want Anointed. But right now, our Anoint is all the way up to Disintegration. I chose this one also because it only costs 2 black oils. Now for leveling, it's pretty straightforward. We can start using this skill at, I would say, level 38. At level 38, you can start with Kinetic Fusillade Totems immediately. I've seen runs. It seems incredibly smooth. I'm going to do a little bit more testing, and I'm going to fill out the POB. But the TLDR is you're going to go bow leveling until level 38. You're going to go Galvanic Arrow plus Galvanic Arrow Ballista, maybe some Mana Forge arrows, and then you're going to go into Rain of Arrows with Rain of Arrows Ballistas. And then that's going to carry you to level 38. At level 38, you get Greater Volley, which gives you a lot more projectiles, but you also get enough points to actually reach up here while still having good increased damage. Also do note that I was gonna try to actually play this from level 12 on, but you don't get it as a duelist, so there's also that. My leveling tree looks pretty standard right here. We're gonna go for the starting nodes, just as much increased damage as we possibly can. Increase the reductions to projectile speed, so we can also get 20% increased damage here. We get the move speed from Avatar of the Hunt, and then we go straight down to Precise Technique. Make sure that this is always active and your accuracy is actually higher than your life. In order to secure this, we're gonna take Farsight while we're on bows, and this is where we're gonna start the respec. So before the respec, this is how your tree is gonna look like, and after the respec, this is how it's gonna look like. So you're gonna lose the accuracy right here, but to make sure Precise Technique still works, you're gonna go Weathered Hunter with the Accuracy Mastery, and then you're gonna go all the way up to Window of Opportunity with the less skill effect duration. You obviously spec out of the bow stuff, and you go down and grab Surveillance, and then you're gonna make your way over to the second totem cluster. After that, you're gonna go further up. You're gonna take the LA Mastery for the inverted watchtowers, and then you're gonna grab the multi-shot. Always make sure that your wand is not too fast, because the wand that you use could be between 1.4 and 1.6. So if something feels off, then maybe wait with the multi-shot. It is a little bit annoying, but you'll get used to it, and it is quite important, and the skill feels amazing if you do it correctly. After that, we're gonna grab a little bit of life, grab Defiance over here for some extra increased damage. Make sure you have a shield, because you obviously want to shield charge. No dual wielding there. Grab one with nature, a little bit extra res. I am also grabbing Alira, by the way. For Pantheons, I'm gonna go Soul of Lunaris and Soul of Yugol. I do have the reduced effect of curses here. This together with the Consecrated Ground just gives me 100% reduced curse effect. And what else? Act 9, just grab a little bit more. Act 10. Like I said, I'm going to fill this out a little bit. I would say that once you hit maps, you can just go for some of the block nodes. I don't know if you're necessarily going to need it, but yeah, it's probably better to go block first and then spell suppression after. All in all, though, I will be fleshing out this POB a little bit more before the league starts. As always, I will be league starting this over on twitch.tv/Palsteron, so you guys can follow along, and I will be making update videos as well. As for my endgame thoughts, as I said, Day 4 or 5 is going to be when I'm going to try go into Stat Stacker. While this build is very nice for an early game package, I don't think it has the scaling for Phrecia. Phrecia is a huge scope, and it's going to really warrant extremely powerful and well min-maxed builds, and also builds that are intrinsically crazy scalers. So that means stat stackers, that means mana stackers, life stackers. That's what you're going to see this patch. And Aristocrat got quite some buffs this patch. If you don't know, Aristocrat is the attribute ascendancy. So you start out and every small node here gives +1 passive points, +5 passive points, and then you can go to the right side. The top side is pretty uninteresting. You don't have to think about it right now. But the bottom gives 40 int, 40 strength, 40 dex. This used to be 30%, got buffed this patch, and it also gives you a effect. So for example, cannot be frozen if dex is higher than int, ignited if strength is higher than dex, yada yada yada. Okay, cool. And then the node at the end got extremely buffed this patch. It used to be 5% increased damage per 5 lowest, now it's 8%. You might know this mod from Cyclopean Coil and also from the attribute mastery right here, but this one is 1%. This is 8%. We're talking, if you have just 300 all attributes, 300, right? We're talking, you're getting just from this node 540% increased damage. And that is not hard to do at all. Even on a strength stacker, int stacker, you have so much leftover dexterity or int, it's not even funny. So this ascendancy is going to be extremely, extremely strong for both strength stacker, int stacker, and most likely also something like EB. What exactly my plans are, I'm not 100% sure yet. We only have the patch notes for a day, so I haven't really had too much thought. I'm probably going to think about this in the first few days, gonna buy up some items and see where it leads me. But in total, this is going to be one of the strongest endgame ascendancies. And guess what? It's right next to Paladin, which is one of the biggest reasons why I think Paladin is going to be so goddamn nice. Now, I want to address one more thing here. A lot of people thought I would just be playing Kinetic Blast of Clustering. For people who don't know, back in Phrecia, way before Kinetic Blast of Clustering was meta, Phrecia kind of allowed me to play that skill before it was buffed because Whisper solved so many issues that the skill had. It gave extra fork. It gave like so much flat mana, especially early. You could actually Leaguestart it, and that was like before it got buffed 2 times in a row. However, I'm not really interested in Leaguestarting it anymore. I've already done it. I want to do something new, but also I don't think Whisper is stronger than Hierophant anymore. It used to be like way better, like actually allow you to play the skill, but now the game's different. So first, there's now Bloodline Ascendancies. Back in the day, when I played Whisper, Hero only had 3 good nodes. You have Divine Guidance, you have Sanctuary of Thought, you have a Conviction of Power. That's it. But now we have Bloodlines. So you're actually getting a 4th Ascendancy, which means that Whisper having 4 good Ascendancies is not as relevant anymore. You also have now a Rune Graft for Fork. One of the biggest things about Whisperer was the fork. If you look right here, it gives you Awakened Fork. And sure, you could argue, well, but that's not the same, pal, right? This one only gives normal fork, but all you need is normal fork for the functionality of the skill. The extra fork is nice, the Awakened Fork is nice, but it's just not as big of a deal anymore. It doesn't really save you a support skill anymore. It just saves you a passive point, which is your Rune Graft, right? Also, Foulborn Kikazaru now exists, which is this little ring right here, which alleviated a lot of the problems that these mana stackers used to have, which is getting flat mana early on. This ring solves that, and that was one of the biggest payoffs of Infinite Pursuit, because you just got like 400 flat mana, which is not as big of a deal anymore. Don't get me wrong, Whisper is still good, but it's not as big of a deal anymore. On top of that, Foulborn Choir of the Storm. This new modifier right here, mana is increased by 50% of overcap lightning res, is how you scale into endgame on these builds now. And it is incredibly powerful. And the problem is that wasn't the case back then. Back then you were like, oh, I can dexterity stack to get even more mana. But that is now directly in conflict with this amulet. Not only can you not use a attribute stacker amulet, you would have to also get dexterity everywhere, and that's a suffix just like Lightning Riz. So it conflicts with your endgame scaling. So that makes Whisperer, just as a whole, as a package, like if you look at the other nodes, this is just a worse Hierophant node. The Hierophant node gives endurance charges, frenzy charges you would gain anyways from Blood Rage. Okay, cool. Rage you just get from your gloves. There is not that much to add. This node got buffed to 6%, but you already get flat damage from Kinetic Blast of Clustering. So in total, there's just not all that much left. And just to be clear, this is for Kinetic Blast of Clustering. If you want to do other stuff on Whisperer, sure. But just to explain to you why I'm not that hyped about Whisperer anymore when it comes to mana stackers. But that's about all I got for today. I'm going to tidy up the POB a little bit. I'm going to tidy up the leveling section especially. And I'm going to be streaming over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. I will be posting updates about this, and like I said, I will also update you guys once I know what I'm gonna reroll into at the end of week 1. Other than that though, give this league a shot. Phrecia is extremely fun and has more new content than some leagues have, so don't get kind of distracted by the fact this is an event. It is very much a league, and even though it is only 3 weeks, it's one of the most fun endgame experiences I've personally had, so I'm really looking forward to it. But whatever you end up playing, hope you guys are having a blast, and since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.